Hey, Lindsay, how are you?
Hey, Michelle, I'm excited to get into a conversation about grandparents because
Yes.
they are so important to our lives, right?
Yes, absolutely. Lindsay, were you close to your grandparents growing up?
You know what? The crazy thing is, I never knew either of my grandfathers, and this is going to make me sound old. I'm not
Mm,
that old, but
oh.
listen to this. My grandfather on my mom's side fought in World War I.
Your grandfather on your mom's side?
On my mom's, so my
Oh,
mom's dad, he was
wow.
born in 1899.
Oh,
Isn't that wild?
wow.
So he died when she was 10. He died
Oh,
in the, like, late let's see, she was born in '47. He died in, yeah, the mid-50s, and I never met him. But
wow.
he fought in World
Oh,
War I. Isn't that wild? When I think
that
about that sometimes and I see photos, I think, "Oh my gosh, that's crazy."
wow, that is incredible.
Yes.
Yeah, I wow.
So I
So
never I never met
you never
him.
met
Yeah.
either of your grandfathers?
Grandfathers, no, they both died pretty young, but I
Hmm.
did know my nana, my mom's mom, and I knew my grandma McMahon, my
Mhm.
dad's mom. So yeah, what about you, Michelle?
Yes, well, I was close to my mom's parents lived very close to us, when we were growing up. So I was very close to them, but they died when I was, like, maybe 10 or around
Yeah.
then. So,
Yeah. Mhm.
but I have a lot of memories of them. My grandma on my dad's side, she was alive actually, Lindsay, we were recording when I found out that she was not doing well.
Oh,
It was
really? Recently or
right
what?
when no, not recently, like,
Oh.
when I first started at All Ears English, we were
Oh.
recording, and I remember my dad called me, and it was an
Oh,
emergency, and I had to get off.
no.
I remember where I
Okay.
was. Anyway, so I have the most memories, not the most memories of her, but, like, more into adulthood, and then also I remember she had a second marriage, so I knew him, but, unfortunately, my dad's dad died when maybe I was around 2, so I don't really
Okay.
remember him.
Yeah, so grandparents are important. I mean, and all around the world, this is a topic everyone is going to connect on. And I think even more so in other cultures, that generation is
Mhm.
more respected. I mean, we could have a conversation about that too. Maybe we'll get into it. We'll see people living with
Mhm.
their grandparents, being close to their grandparents,
Mhm.
but it's a very special relationship. Like in some
Yeah.
ways, I want to skip having kids and just have grandkids.
What is it? Sometimes, oh man. Oh yeah, sometimes my dad says, I guess this is a grandparent saying, is like, if I knew being a grandparent would have been so great, I would have done it first.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know, right? That sounds like a good saying. It's so true when you see how great it must be to be a grand you just get to take the kids out, have fun with them, you're not doing
Yeah, and
any of the
then
discipline
goodbye. Yeah.
anymore, you're done with all that stuff, but you still kinda know how to handle kids because,
Right.
it's a sounds great to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So
alright, let's
this is
get
gonna be a
into it.
fun conversation,
Yeah.
but, before we move on, I just wanna let you guys know we've been doing these great Spotify key polls where we get to interact with our audience, hear what you think about things. So, guys, at the end of this episode, we are going to give you a key poll to answer
Yes.
that we will read the results of, in a future episode. So listen out for that if you're on Spotify.
Yeah, put your vote in, make your voice heard. These polls are just getting really popular here on this show, right? A lot of
Mhm.
people are
They're fun.
participating, hundreds of votes. So vote for the poll, guys. Go over to episode 2213, right, Michelle, and learn the difference between weird versus strange in English. That's a fun
Alright.
one, right?
That is a fun one. Got lots of fun episodes to listen to. All right, so let's get into grandparents. All right. Lindsay, what did you call you I heard you throwing around some
Yeah,
names for
we've
so
all
what
got
did
our
you
own
call
names. Yeah.
your grandmothers? So I heard a nana?
There's an yep, my nana was my mom's mom, and then we called my dad's mom, who died when I was 10, Grandma McMahon. So my last name is McMahon, so Grandmom McMahon.
Mhm.
So, I mean, what about you? What are some names that were existing in your family,
Yeah. Well,
Michelle?
did you when you were just seeing your grandma, I mean, would you always say, "Hi, I'm Grandma McMahon," or is that what you used to talk about her to other people? Like, did you just call
Yeah.
her grandma?
Well, with her, the thing is I didn't really spend a lot of time with her. So she
Mm,
lived in Delaware, we lived in New
okay.
Hampshire. I only really met her a handful of times,
This was your dad's
unfortunately,
mom?
my dad's mom, and then
Oh,
she
okay,
died when
yeah.
I was 10. So, like, we made maybe 2 or 3 trips throughout my
Mm,
childhood down there. So there weren't a lot of moments where I was like, "Hey,"
yeah. Grandma,
addressing
"Hey,
her.
grandma."
It was
Yeah.
more what my dad would call her. But with my
Interesting.
nana, yes,
Oh, I
I would
see.
say my mom's mom, she actually lived with us for about
Mhm.
10 years before she passed away, and I would call her
Oh,
Nana.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, so mine so my dad's dad, the one who died early, so he went by Papa Lou.
Okay.
So
Papa.
it was
Mhm.
Papa and his first name Lou. And then my grandma, she was Grandma May. And
Okay.
then,
Okay, Grandma
uh
May. Okay,
grandma.
so
And
uh-huh.
it's interesting because grandma is spelled Grandma, but nobody says grandma, it's
No.
grandma, right?
Right. Or grandmom. No one says
Yeah, oh,
grandmom.
grandmom, yeah.
Grandma. It's
Right,
we drop the D is what you're saying
yeah,
in
we dropped the T.
pronunciation. Yeah.
Yeah, and then on my other side, they were also just grandma and grandpa and their first names, and my dad, but now that you say it, when my dad would sometimes parents to distinguish between the 2, especially if they both go by grandma or grandpa, you sometimes use the last name
Yes.
sometimes,
Right,
or the first name.
sure. Or the first
Oh,
name. Like, for example, my dad, for my niece, right? For my niece,
mhm,
she calls him Grandpa Vin, right? Grandpa Vin. His
mhm,
first name is Vin. So Grandpa Vin.
mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. So what's interesting and what we're gonna get into today is that I feel like grandparents have changed a lot. Old is very different, and we I it's in the I've seen a lot of conversations about this, how old isn't what it used to be, and people at the age of 50 look different than they used to years ago. And so grandparents aren't are trying to not look really old, right? They're not old. They're not old has a
Right.
different meaning, and also age is what you make of it, right? Like
Of course.
one person at one age may seem older than another person at the same age. And so grandparents, I think this idea of grandparents is really changing. Grandparents feel younger. They're playing pickleball.
Yeah. Pickleball is the hot new trend in the US. Yes,
Yeah, that's
yes,
my
that's right.
dad. Yeah, they're playing
For
pickleball,
sure.
they're traveling a lot, like, if
Yes.
and so a lot of them may feel that these words grandma or grandpa, they may want a different name because some of them might feel that that is this old name. However, some of them really embrace the name, so some wanna change it, some of them embrace the names. Lindsay, have you heard of this kind of phenomenon?
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's always fun because I've been around it a few times when my niece was born and then when my partner's niece and nephew were born, the conversation among the family of what will this person be called, right? And
Yes.
them
Yeah.
deciding and saying, here's what I want and here's why. And sometimes it's actually rooted in culture, right?
Mhm.
So
Right.
yeah. So, for example, if your family is Italian or if the grandmother is 100% Italian, for example, Nona is the Italian version that I've
Mhm.
heard, right? That's
Mhm,
one
mhm,
example, kind of just
mhm.
like asserting identity is kind of it's
Yeah.
a way of expressing yourself. Uh,
Right, exactly. So there just may be something culturally that the person is called, or there are tons of other names as well. So, I mean, but you're right. There is that conversation usually
yeah.
in families now. Oh, what are
Yes.
they going to be called? I remember before my nephew. Now he's gonna be he just turned 11. And I remember my mom saying, "Oh, that she doesn't want to be grandma," but my dad was just said, "Oh no, I'm grandpa," right? So he's grandpa. Well,
Okay.
my mom decided on Grammy, so now she's
Okay.
Grammy.
Yeah,
um
it's an interesting moment, I'm sure, when you get to that stage in life, and then you're kind of faced with, wow, taking on one of these labels, and what does that
yeah,
mean? And new phase of life.
yeah,
Fascinating. What are some of
yeah.
the ones that we know in our circles, Michelle? Just for
Right.
example.
So yeah,
Mhm.
Grammy, I my Dan's parents, they're Nana and Papa.
Yeah.
Um I've heard Gigi, I've heard Mimi.
I've heard Kiki. I don't know if Kiki's another
Kiki.
one that along with those. Nona, as we mentioned, pop up, like pop up. I've heard that
Pop up.
before.
Yeah,
Pop
pop
up,
pop
like
or pop.
popovers,
Yeah.
pop up. You know,
Pop. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh, and then grandpa first name or grandmom last name, right?
Mhm.
Hmm.
Right, right, exactly. Lots of options.
Michelle, it's interesting though. I mean, this is not just about the conversation that happens within the family. I actually had this exact conversation at a party, at that Nicolas
Hmm.
Cage party I told you I went to, which was
Oh, how was
fantastic, by the
that?
way. It was fantastic.
Which
Oh
movie
my
did you do
gosh.
again?
I did forgetting the name of the movie now, but Con Air. Con
Oh,
Air,
yeah. You gotta
where
send me a picture
oh,
of that.
I have yeah, it was great. We walked
That's
in
so
and
fun.
people were like, "Oh, you guys are awesome." It
Oh,
was so
wow.
fun. But anyways, once I, like, took off, the mustache and the beard and, like, just let my hair down a little bit,
Yeah,
I we had this was one of the topics of conversation among
yeah.
friends, fellow young professionals.
Uh-huh.
What did your mom wanna be
Yeah.
called when they became a grandparent? Because there were some kids there, people's kids,
Yeah.
right?
Interesting.
So it's
Yeah.
not just in your family.
No,
You guys could end up with native speakers at a party having this conversation, right?
definitely.
Okay, Michelle, where to now?
Right. So, I mean, one thing that's interesting is because there are so many different names, it might be confusing who's
Yeah,
right? So, I mean, for example, like I said, Gigi could be grandma, but I also know someone who Gigi is what they call their great grandma.
sure.
So it can all be different, and so I do think it might get a little bit more confusing than in the past because you if you say, "Oh, my Mimi," right?
Yeah, sure.
Everybody has somebody with a different name. So I think always if you're just going to clarify, you could if you're talking about them to somebody, you would probably say my grandmother, my grandfather,
Yeah,
right?
that's
You
an
wouldn't necessarily
yeah.
I mean, you could say pop up like most of them are pretty known, but if it's maybe something like Gigi, Mimi, it could get a little
Mm.
confusing.
Well, it's also important to clarify as an adult, professional or whatever, you're talking, it depends. Like, you're not always going to say, my Nana
Right.
did this, like, my Nana lived through the Great Depression. You
Right.
might, it depends on how close you are to the person you're talking
Yes.
to,
Yes.
right? Because that's kind of intimate. You're sharing that special name. That's not something you're going to say to a coworker. You're going to say, my
Right. My
grandmother, the
grandmother. Right.
standard names,
Right.
right?
Yeah. So that's definitely
Hmm.
a key point there. But yeah, if you are going to be a grandparent, you might be deciding what you want your name to be. So hopefully maybe we gave you some ideas today.
Yeah, there's a lot of options. Express yourself, enjoy that, and that is a big moment. That's like a milestone moment in families and a great conversation topic. So should we do a role play now, Michelle? Shall we?
Let's do it. So here we are. We are friends.
All right, here we go.
That's
My
it.
grandmother. Okay, here we go. So my grandmother was strict, but I loved her.
My grandpa was also a little strict, but we had a great relationship.
What do your kids call your mom?
Oh, they call her Mimi, and they call my dad Poppy.
Interesting.
Yeah, my parents didn't want traditional grandparent names.
Yeah, again, that was the conversation I had at this party. So this is real English here, Michelle.
Yeah.
Relevant
Yeah.
topics for our listeners here. So we've got some of the typical terms and then some more creative terms. So I said my
Mhm.
grandmother was strict. And again, like I said, this is the term you'd probably use when you're talking to someone you're not close to about
Yeah.
this person, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Or just or or
Or
maybe if
mhm.
I don't know. Yeah.
No,
You
what are you thinking?
just
What do you
no, I'm trying to think why else you would even if you're not close to them, maybe you're just having a conversation with them. It's just kind of the basic name. If you just
yeah.
kind of want to keep the basic name,
Yeah.
you can go with that. But I said my grandpa was also a little strict, but we had a great relationship. So I think grandma and grandpa are the more informal versions of grandmother and grandfather.
Yeah, and I think all 4 of those would be fine, let's say if you're talking to a coworker,
Yeah,
but the difference
exactly.
is when you get into the more special
Poppy
names,
and the
Nana
yeah,
and Mimi, all these things, it's sort of very personal and it's for your family and you. It's not for
exactly.
all the people in your life to know.
Yeah, and then
Um,
and then I
yeah.
said, "What do your kids call your mom?" And you said
Yeah,
that too.
and then you said they call her Mimi and they call my dad Poppy, right? So those are the special names that are very creative.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Lindsay, do you think, if you're a grandparent one day, would you wanna have a traditional name? Like, what would you have your
I
name
don't
be?
know. I probably would wanna make up one, but I
Uh-huh.
would wanna make sure it's great, really, like, rare and unique, of course.
Fabulous. Yes,
It's
yes,
fabulous.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a that poll we mentioned at the top of the episode, right?
Mhm, yep.
Mhm.
So let's get into it, guys, on Spotify. So here's the question. Would you rather have more of a traditional or creative grandparent name? So, an
Yes.
interesting one. We wanna hear from you guys.
So there's no in between, you have to choose one or the other, and we
Yep.
will announce that poll soon on the show, guys. Michelle, what's a takeaway for today?
Well, like Lindsay said, this is not just a conversation topic for your family or in close circles. People talk about this, especially because I think it is kind of a hot topic. I mean, I've
Yeah.
seen lots of things in the news over it, just like how
Huh,
grandparents and how uh, people are evolving over time, and a certain age isn't what it once was. And
right.
grandparents are feeling young, they're feeling good, they want to, and they maybe want a name that reflects that and makes them feel that way as well, even though they've gone into this next phase of life.
Interesting. I love it. So good. So guys, be ready for this conversation topic to come up. This
Hmm.
is part of connection, being ready and anticipating what might come up, or maybe bringing up these topics that people
Yeah.
really care about because they
Yeah, it's a
they
good
touch us deeply.
conversation starter.
Yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
family is so important around the world
Mhm.
to all of us. And so it's likely conversations will center around this at some point. All right. Good
Definitely.
stuff. All right, Michelle, you have a good day. Thanks for bringing this to the show.
All right, thanks, Lindsay. Bye.
Take care. Bye.